Auburn's defensive line had a tough time getting to John Mateer, but can they mess up Marcel Reed's day? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G. Turn us up, turn us on, turn it out. I'm here with my good friend Taylor Davis, sideline reporter for ESPN, to talk a little Auburn football. Week 2 of the SEC schedule. Auburn travels to A&M. 2 straight weeks on the road to open the season. Kind of rough. They get a bye week next week, and then Georgia comes to town. But we're going to talk about Texas A&M and Mike Elko's squad here. Disappointing results in Norman, but before we get into what Texas A&M is, because we're going to talk about that Auburn D-line versus the Texas A&M O-line, and then we'll talk about some other things about the game in the second half. I do want to start with the feeling you're left with after Saturday, as a professional, but also as an Auburn alum and fan. I came away from the game feeling like Auburn's going to be hell on everybody from now until the end of the season.
Yeah.
I doubt they see a defense as good as Oklahoma's between now and the end of the season. That includes Bama and Georgia. R. Mason Thomas made his presence felt when he returned in the second half.
Tried to tell y'all.
Oh, man.
In the comments, y'all were telling me it wasn't that big deal.
Yeah, you did say that. Kudos to you. But even though we knew this team wasn't going to go undefeated.
Yeah.
It's just tough when you lose like that. You got to regroup if you're Auburn, but if you're an Auburn fan, don't get down about this. They still have a chance to make a really big splash in the SEC this year.
No, 100%. I mean, this one, you're asking how I felt after it. Nauseous is probably the word that comes to mind. Yeah. I mean, it was a heartbreaker, especially because I think we saw that this Auburn team can hang with anybody. And the reality of the situation is it was a 1-touchdown game. We all know and have seen the statements that have come out, the controversy that was very present on the field on Saturday. I am certainly not saying that Auburn did themselves any favors with all of the penalties, the sacks, the offensive line did not play well. Like, there were so many factors to it. You miss a field goal, your punter fumbles and sets them in good field position. Like, you name it. However, when officiating is making such glaring, egregious mistakes in game, you are adding another layer that this road team is having to overcome. And I don't know who could have ended up with a win in a situation like that. Any other team in the country being dealt the hand that Auburn was dealt in that environment, I don't think leaves with a win. And it's very discouraging. But look, Auburn has 2 options in this situation coming off a win like that. You can feel like you were a victim of some wrongdoing and let that consume your mentality, or you can let it piss you off and you can go play with something to prove. And my hope is that that's what they do. Use it to motivate you. I hear coaches say that all the time. If you don't learn from and grow from your adversity, then you're losing twice. Don't lose twice. Do not lose because of what happened last week. If you go into A&M and you play a team that, I agree with you, I don't think Auburn's going to see a better defense. I do think they're going to see a better offense, and they may be seeing it in Kyle Field this week. I think Texas A&M's offense is legit. Their receivers are definitely better than Oklahoma, and Marcel Reed is playing very good football. I think he's actually not getting the credit that he deserves. So you have to go into A&M and play a much more disciplined game than you did last week. Absolutely. But let that drive you. Go out there and prove the same thing that you proved this week, which is that this Auburn team should be getting respect and is going to be able to hang with anyone in the country.
Yeah, you mentioned Texas A&M, so I definitely want to move forward here. Auburn has got to put this in the rearview mirror and focus on the task at hand here. It's not going to get much easier for them the next couple weeks, but sure. Texas A&M is next up. And look, Marcel Reed, only 58% completion percentage on the season so far, so there may be some opportunities there for an Auburn secondary, but he is dynamic with his legs and can make plays outside of the box. So Auburn is going to have to play disciplined, contained football on him and hopefully force him to beat them with his arm, with that 58% arm. But from Saturday, I was a little concerned about Auburn not getting to John Mateer more and getting him to the ground. This is going to be a better Texas A&M offensive line that they're going up against on Saturday. And so if you're DJ Durkin, you've got to get your guys going there, and the pass rush, they have to disrupt the pass game more, I think, than they did on Saturday in Norman.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the completion percentage jumps out at you, but when they have connected, it's explosives. They've got Mario Craven and Casey Concepcion that transferred in this year, and they have built chemistry with Marcel Reed very quickly. They were gashing Notre Dame a few weeks ago. So I think that explosive ability is going to keep our second. Look, I said last week our secondary concerned me. They played much better, and I think they're going to have to continue to take steps forward because this passing attack can beat you. And I agree. I think Marcel Reed is going to be equally as difficult to get to. I think that their line is much better. Their line is massive. Like, holy cow, I don't know what they're feeding these kids, but they are ginormous and they're smart and they're playing well together. But Marcel Reed can extend. He has so many gears to him, and he's actually seeing the field very well. I think that he feels comfortable in their system now. I actually really like this Texas A&M offense. So I think that secondary and the front is going to have to play arguably the best game that they've played. And I think that that's going to be a key piece of it. I know that Auburn's offensive woes were so predicated on the performance of the offensive line. You know, I've been talking about that on your show every week, the importance of Auburn's line. And you saw it when they've played well. Auburn's offense has clicked well. This past week, it was so bad. It was so, and I also think that, you know, I've also talked about Jackson's internal clock. I think the batteries were dying a little bit this past week. He was hanging on to it a little bit too long, my guy. Take the check down, okay? Like, you clearly they are beating you up front. They are getting very effective pressure. You're gonna have to take the dink and dunk every now and then. Like, you're just gonna have to let it go. I think that still could be in play here. I think they do need to just be willing to methodically move the chains a little bit more, kind of wear them down, because Kyle Field is a tough place to play. And let's also add the element that Auburn is feeling pretty tired after a physical slugfest in Norman, and Texas A&M spent last weekend on the couch on a bye week. They are well rested and healthy.
Well, for Marcel Reed, your point about Marcel Reed, under pressure versus Notre Dame on 42.5% of his dropbacks. However, no sacks for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So while he may have been under pressure, they weren't getting him to the ground there. So if you're Auburn, you've got to, you can get to him.
Yes.
But when you get there, you got to make a play. You have to make a play on this young man and not let him make plays on you. Now, he's only got one interception on the season. He only had one interception last week versus Notre Dame. But he committed 4 plays worthy of turnovers in that game. Another thing you have to capitalize on if you're Auburn. Now, we know Auburn almost had a big one early versus Oklahoma that the refs stepped in on. Continue to make those sorts of plays, though, and eventually it'll start to go your way. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do defensively. Now, I know we talked about the defensive line versus the offensive line, but I do want to close this segment talking about those DBs versus the receivers. Craver is having himself a season so far. Lots of worry about the secondary headed into Oklahoma and Damari at quarterback. And I would say they had a great day, all things considered, versus those Oklahoma wide receivers. Too much panic. There was too much panic about the secondary in my book. I said, guys, calm down here. You went against you went against Baylor, and we all know that their quarterback Sawyer Robertson he's a good quarterback. I mean, he threw for more yards on SMU the next week after going for 400 on Auburn.
Yep.
But you have to be able to limit the explosive plays. They took 9 shots down the field last week against Notre Dame, so they're not going to be afraid to test this Auburn secondary.
Yes, exactly. And it led them to a lot of success. That's why I was saying the completion percentage isn't telling the whole story, because when they are connecting, they are gashing you. And so I think that the secondary needs to take a lot of confidence. I wasn't as concerned in the Baylor game. It was the South Alabama game that made me worried about the secondary, especially in the second half. Like, they really allowed a very systematic move the chains type of offense. They prevented them from getting in the end zone. I get it. But the secondary was showing reasons for concern even against an opponent like South Alabama. They need to take a lot of confidence from what they did against Oklahoma, because I do think that John Mateer has been effective through the air, and they were great in coverage. you've got to duplicate, if not improve that this week, because I think that these A&M receivers are more competitive. They are better route runners, and Marcel Reed has found a real rhythm, specifically with the deep shots.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's good. This is the SEC, so every single week you're going to have a test that you probably don't want here. Give me a prediction here. What do you think a successful day looks like for Auburn defending the pass here? Now, they limited John Mateer less than 300 yards passing. That was one prediction about this game I got absolutely wrong. I thought he was going to have a day, but Auburn would still keep Oklahoma off the scoreboard. He didn't have a day, and they did kind of keep him off the scoreboard. But what do you think here? I see less than 250 yards passing as a successful day defending Reed.
Yeah, I would think around 200 passing yards, and I'm feeling good about that because they're gonna connect on some explosives. That's just been such a big part of it, and those two guys specifically are such deep threats that I think you're going to end up with one or two of those. So I could see Marcel Reed with a 200 passing yard day, and I still think Auburn could get out with a win, especially if you also are able to contain his scramble ability.
Yeah, look, we've got to get predictions from you here in the second half. Every week, I've got to get you on the record talking about what we expect from Auburn versus Texas A&M. It's certainly going to be a different type of ball game. So we'll talk about our keys to the game and make some predictions here right after a quick word from our sponsors, our friends at Abel's Iron Moore and Associates. Just starting out in your career, it might feel like investing is something you'll think about later. But the truth is, the earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow. AMA helps young professionals build principal portfolios from day one. They'll help you understand how to invest strategically, avoid common pitfalls, and create a foundation for long-term financial growth. No minimum account is required, no sales pitch, and no gimmicks, just clear guidance from a team with over 20 years of experience helping clients across the country. Call AIMA at 912-777-4128 or visit AIMAinc.com to get started on the path toward financial security and freedom. The War Report has been compensated by AIMA for this endorsement. Abel's Iron Moore and Associates is a registered investment advisor. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. The information in this advertisement is for informational purposes only and should not be considered personalized investment advice. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal, and past performance is not indicative of future results. I want to thank our friends at Sky Tobacco and Vape. Need a smoke shop that's always close by? Sky Tobacco and Vape has you covered all over Columbus and even across the bridge in Phoenix City. Whether you're cruising down Airport Thruway or rolling along Victory Drive or making a pit stop on the bypass, we've got a spot ready for you. From vapes to tobacco and everything in between, Sky Tobacco and Vape is your one-stop shop for good vibes and great deals. Swing through today. Chances are we're already on your way. I want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails in your life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Do you have some traditional ailments that might require some non-traditional remedies? Well, the Rogue Shop maybe could help you out. So make sure you give them a visit and use code REPORT to get 15% off your remedy today. Last but certainly not least, I want to thank our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com. Use code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills, and code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights. Summer may be over, but the fall is here, and you want to be outside grilling with the family or staying in shape with some Golden's Cast Iron weights. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Keys to the game. What is the number one thing after Saturday that you want to see from the Auburn Tigers that will give them a good chance to win on the road? Road wins in the SEC, I don't care how many points they come by. I don't care what it looks like.
Yeah.
If you go on the road in this conference and get a win, that is a double win for you. I watched Iowa State, Kansas State to kick the season off in Dublin.
Mm-hmm.
Close game, terrible football.
Terrible football.
Awful football. This is going to be good football because Saturday in Norman, I thought we saw a lot of good football from two really good football teams that have a chance to make the college football playoff. What's your key here to Auburn beating Texas A&M?
Yeah, it's absolutely no surprise if you've been listening to me on this podcast. It's the offensive line play. I think what happened last week, yes, some of the officiating was problematic, but had Auburn's offensive line played better and some of the penalties been eliminated, the holding, I mean, there were some overshots to Cam Coleman. There were some times that Jackson held on to it too long. Don't get me wrong. But the false starts and the holding penalties, that Jeremiah Cobb 44-yard run to finally build momentum there in the second half, and you set yourself back behind the sticks. On a road day, you cannot do that. You are never going to be able to garner momentum multiple times in a drive. You hit the big plays. You have to play disciplined, methodical ball. And look, Kyle Field is so loud, y'all. I have covered a game on those sidelines. My earpieces turned up to full volume, and I cannot hear anything. If the offensive line has communication issues, if their timing is not on par, we are going to see a repeat of what happened last week. I think the offensive line needed to go back to the drawing board this week. As long as they stay healthy, build that continuity, build that chemistry, lock into your keys and your discipline, protect Jackson Arnold. I think Auburn has a much better shot. If the offensive line plays the way they did last week, the Aggies get the win.
Yeah, I agree. I do think offensive line play is going to be a big deal. Hugh Freeze did say about the 10 Jackson Arnold sacks. He felt like, I asked him a question during press conference yesterday. He said he felt like 5 of those sacks you don't really do anything about, but 5 of those on Jackson Arnold just holding on to the ball too long.
Way too long.
If you're Jackson, you got to cover your offensive line, get rid of the football, and not ask them to block for 4 seconds is a lifetime blocking in college football.
And against an Oklahoma defensive front, it really was wild to watch. I was like, Jackson, buddy, you've got all day. And what's interesting about this is how many years have we been talking about Auburn quarterbacks wanting to abandon the pocket too soon? That's all we've talked about is like Peyton Thorne, Bo Nix, stay in the pocket a little bit longer. Stop taking off to run. And Jackson's kind of gone on the opposite end of the spectrum. So we need to find a happy medium for sure.
My key to the game is going to be third down defense.
I like it.
They held, like Notre Dame held Texas A&M to 4 of 11 on third downs. I think if you're Auburn, you got to be aiming for somewhere in the sub 40%.
Yeah.
In terms of them converting third downs, get off the field and get your offense more possessions to score. With the big playability that we saw from Cam Coleman, because look, A&M is no slouch, but I expected a better showing from the Oklahoma DBs on the Auburn wide receivers, and man, did Cam Coleman, he should have had 250 yards receiving in that game.
That's why they just started hugging him on his routes.
All they can do is hold him.
On.
Yeah, all they can do is hold him, and he still had nearly 100 yards of receiving. But I think you have to get off the field on third down and get Jackson Arnold the ball back so that those guys can cook. Offensively, Auburn started something special, and that's why I say I think Auburn fans should be encouraged, Taylor, by what they saw on Saturday. Were all the complaints they can't throw the ball, they're not throwing the ball down the field. Well, they did it a ton versus Oklahoma, and they hit some, they missed some, but the opportunities were there.
Correct.
So if Cam Coleman has 4 yards on a wide receiver in the end zone in this one, Jackson's got to put it on him, or those cries that he is still the same quarterback are going to get louder, and they're going to have meaning if you don't hit the big plays when they're there. John Mateer had a receiver, albeit on an illegal play, wide open, and he didn't overthrow him.
100%.
He gave him, it was a little high, but he still gave him a real chance to get his hands on the ball, make a play. That's all I want to see from Auburn in this one. Before we get out of here, let's get a score prediction. Doom, doom, doom. It's that time.
We do this.
Yeah, so we've got to predict a score. I called Baylor 38-21, and the score 38-24. And then early in the week, I was feeling like Oklahoma was going to win the game, but my fan got the best of me. I switched my score from Oklahoma 21, Auburn 17 to Auburn 24, Oklahoma 21. They won 22-17. So my intuition, my football intuition is high.
Yeah.
Here. Let's hear from you though, Taylor Davis. What do you think in this one? What's the score?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was on as far as the pick goes last week. I felt like Oklahoma had the juice to get that one done. My score was off though. I definitely expected a higher scoring game. I think I said 35-24 or something like that. But you know what? I am gonna go. I know we are a pretty substantial underdog in this one, but I think Auburn bounces back in this one. And Texas A&M is no slouch. Like Texas A&M is built to be a playoff team, honestly. But I think that this game was so weird last year, 4 overtimes. An interesting element of it, though, Le'Veon Moss did not play last season. He was injured in this game. He really hasn't had his breakout game thus far. Auburn needs to hope he doesn't have it this week, because it feels like that kid is on the cusp. And the fact that he didn't get a chance to do it against Auburn last year weird things like that end up happening in college football, they got to lock in and make sure that kid does not have the big day that he's churning for. But I do think that if Auburn puts it together, if the offensive line plays well, if they're good on third down, I totally agree with you in that pick. And if special teams plays well, I think special teams is going to be a big part of this. Your field position in a place like Kyle Field is pivotal. Like you have to play very sound on special teams. We need to have a couple big returns. I'm going to go Auburn 28, A&M 24.
Ooh, Auburn 28, A&M 24. You've got us busting out the Mylanta here for a second straight week. I'm going to go. Wait, do you take Mylanta for like nausea? I don't think you take that for nausea.
Is that really a medicine?
Yeah. I was like, wait.
I mean, I said I was nauseous at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah,
so
people will be like, Mike, these guys taking diarrhea medicine. I am gonna go Auburn 33, Texas A&M 17. Yeah, I have a feeling about the scoring defense in this one. Look, one thing that Auburn did well defensively under Ron Roberts and under DJ Durkin is last year, nobody ran away from Auburn on the scoreboard.
Right.
Georgia managed 31. A&M got 41, I think, but in 4 OTs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a stingy Auburn defense. I expect them to hold A&M under 20. May give up yards between the 20s. They're explosive. This is no disrespect to A&M, but
for sure.
Yeah, those guys buckle down in the red zone, and if they for some reason cannot connect on some of those explosive plays, or the Auburn D-line is able to get to Marcel Reed and get him to the ground before those plays develop, then I expect a multi-score win from Auburn. They lost last week, but I saw something happening offensively that we haven't seen at Auburn in a really, really, really long time.
Yeah.
Quarterback throwing up 50-50 balls to a receiver who feels like he can catch anything.
I mean, he can.
Yeah.
You just got to put it on him or near him, honestly.
Oh, goodness. Cam Coleman, the number 5 overall player, depending on what recruiting service you look at, coming out of high school. Those are your first-round draft picks. Those are your can't-miss kids.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that come in the mold of like Julio Jones. And I mean, he got stronger and faster this offseason.
No, I know.
Sophomore year. Looks ridiculous. And he's got the length and the speed to get out there and just make plays. And he's not alone.
I know.
Malcolm Simmons had a crazy-looking spin move.
He did.
I was like, he looked like a video game player. Eric Singleton was out there doing Eric Singleton things.
I am also loving Damari Alston out of the backfield. He's becoming another target for it. Yeah. So it's putting it together. I'm with you.
Yeah, they're so multifaceted offensively. Very few defenses are going to be equipped to stop Auburn the way Oklahoma's defense was.
Correct.
So I think it gets a little bit easier for them this week, albeit in a hostile environment. Anytime you go in front of 100,000 fans in a historic place like College Station, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I could see Auburn pulling away late in this one.
Yeah.
Because I think this team has what it takes to close out games. You know, when Gus was here, it felt like huge offensive explosion in the first quarter and a half, and then hold on for dear life.
Yeah.
This feels different to me. This feels like Auburn has the opportunity to hit the gas in the second half, and Hugh Freeze went out and got the playmakers to do it. So again, Auburn 33, Texas A&M 17. That's how I'm calling it. Taylor Davis, sideline reporter for ESPN. As always, before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
You can find me at Taylor Beth Davis on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever. And then Jason Campbell and I have an SEC podcast every week. It is called SEC State of Mind. You can catch us on YouTube or search SEC State of Mind wherever you get your podcasts. We put episodes out every Tuesday.
That's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, brought to you by our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. Get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault, not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. Guys, do us a favor after the video. We want to hear from you. Give us your score prediction. Let us know if Taylor and I are crazy, or if you think we're spot on. We want to hear from you on all of it. And while you're there, smash that super thanks button. Your financial support helps keep the work that we're doing here going. Please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW4 on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, Warriors. Thanks.